Hello, Karim. This is Sim. I'm making this video quickly to show you firsthand some of the things I wanted to share with you about my experience setting up your machine. First of all, thanks for shipping it out as fast as you did. I didn't know if it was even going to show up. I never ordered anything from Turkey before, but I was very pleased when it arrived, and I was very impressed with your the level of care you took in packaging it with the customized foam and everything. And overall, I wanted to say I'm very impressed with this kit, and I think that it has a ton of potential. But I found that I had to spend a lot of hours over the past couple weeks just getting it dialed in. Some of that was learning OpenPNP, but a lot of it was overcoming some of the challenges with how it arrived, and also just how some of the things were designed. So I just want to share that with you and hope that if you're still making these, I don't know when this was produced. I don't see a manufacturing date or your logo. You really got to get your logo on here somewhere, or your name, because there's no clue as to where it came from other than on the circuit board. And I don't know, maybe that's on purpose. Maybe you were hoping to sell these as a or to rebrand them or something. But yeah, so I just wanted to go over a few things, just some initial easy things like quality control, things that I think were missed initially that are easy to fix, and some other things that I think that you should consider implementing in future designs. So I'll just start by going down the list. Some of the minor things, the screws for attaching the trays, these M4 screws here were not included with the machine, but of course I had a few laying around, so that was no issue. The plastic cover was rubbing up against the stepper motor here, and I know these cables maybe need a little bit more clearance. So maybe the cable for the C motor, and also the tubing here, probably I'll probably shorten them, and that'll probably help out. But I think the side of this bracket might have also been rubbing at it as well. So I think maybe just a little bit more clearance on that housing, on that cover. I see that you did carve some area out on it in the design, but maybe just actually just build it out a little bit further to the left there. Okay, so the cable guard here was broken. No big deal. I'll reprint one of those. That's not an issue. Um, and let's see. Okay, another minor thing. The fans that both of the fans that were used were pretty noisy, and they kind of had a squeal to them. So I just disabled them because I don't think heat is going to be too big of an issue down there. As long as the stepper drivers have their heat sinks on, I think that they'll be fine. I don't see that two cooling fans are all that necessary. So I would consider either maybe just using one fan, and maybe find a better source for those so they're not as noisy, or just go do without the fans altogether. Okay, some of the major issues I ran into. So the stepper wires going into this connector here, were two of them were loose, so I was losing steps and I couldn't figure out why until I kind of just pulled in the connector, and two of the wires just popped right out. So whoever's crimping those isn't squeezing it tight enough. Let's see, the AC terminals at this AC jack, two or three of those were loose, so they were wiggling really loose and easy to pop off. So I just pinched those with the pliers. But yeah, again, just whoever's putting those on there should probably double check that they're popping on, because that's, kind of a scary wire to have loose. The bottom LED ring here, this was glued on, and I believe that the stress from from this epoxy, or this glue, broke the connection of two of the LEDs, so I lost three here and three here. I tried repairing it. I was able to fix the one side. The other side, I couldn't get to reflow, so I'm missing a couple LEDs. No big deal, but maybe a different attachment method for this guy here. And I would like to see if I could get another one of these rings to replace it with. If you've got them in stock, let me know. Let's see, the rotation stepper bracket. Yeah, this bracket here, I'm assuming that you only have the 2 points of contact because of this, that you have some way to adjust the bend of it, but it was definitely mounted a little crooked, so it wasn't quite square with the machine, so I ended up having to squeeze that a bit to get the stepper to mount correctly. But part of the issue too was that the screws are flathead screws, and they're supposed to be in countersunk holes. And the hole in this, not only was it not countersunk, but it was actually threaded, so I don't know that it was actually engaging properly with the motor. So I drilled out that hole, and I countersunk it a bit. This one I couldn't quite countersink, but that one was not tapped, so I didn't need to drill it out. And I tightened those down as best I could with the Phillips head drive, and it seems to be good now. But I think both of these should be cap head screws and not countersunk, and not Phillips head. The pump, the wire, so I couldn't get there's two reasons why I couldn't get the vacuum pump working. And one of them I found out later was that the TTL wire wasn't properly attached. So to the circuit board, a lot of those header blocks, the screw terminal blocks, had the wires kind of strangely inserted. You had some really nice ferrule beads on some of them, but then others were stripped and then just shoved in there and then tightened down. And a lot of it was just tightened down on the insulation. So I had to rewire quite a few of those. Um, let's see, the Z rail here, I had to replace. It had quite a bit of slop. I was able to jiggle the head back and forth a millimeter or two, because the rail, I know they're probably cheaper rails, but it took me a while to figure out why there was so much slop in the head. I was like, it can't be the rail because those are precision rails, but turns out it was. So I replaced it by grinding down because I know it's like a custom size, so ground it down to 70 millimeters, and that's good now too. Some issues I ran into during setup. You must have revised the circuit board since creating the the, the, the machine definition for this, because the pinout for the pump, the top LED and the bottom LED were different, and it took me a while to figure out what the actual pinout was. So I was able to fix that, but that should definitely be updated in your documentation. The steps per millimeter I found out was incorrect and needed to be updated in the Repeater firmware. Of course, that's a calibration step that anybody should be familiar with, but by default, Repeater didn't have EEPROM enabled, so I had to reflash it in order to do that. And I think maybe by default, enabling the EEPROM setting might be nice because it makes it a lot easier to update those settings without having to reflash it. Let's see. And then there was no machine definition for OpenPNP 2, which is the current version that I think everybody's using. I put one together and I'd be happy to share it with you if you'd like. I'm sure you have one for yourself as well, but I've been actively, dialing it in, and I'm sure somebody else might find it helpful. I mean, a lot of this I'm going to try to post to the OpenPNP discussion group just for anybody else who happens to have this machine as well. But hopefully you'll be willing to kind of make some of these changes to the website as well, because I think it'd be very helpful for anybody else who's buying these from you. Let's see. I noticed a lot, or most of, I guess all of your screws are either flathead Phillips or just machine panhead Phillips screws, and I'd like to see a lot of those being changed to cap head screws. So they take an Allen key, because you can just get a lot more torque, and it's easier to get a tool on them without it slipping out, for one. And then also, I think I see a lot of flathead screws being used in non-countersunk holes. I see you do have some of the holes countersunk, so that's nice. And these are cap heads, so that's nice. But everything else is Phillips for some reason. I found that a little odd, but just a matter of convenience. Let's see what else we got here. The nozzles. The nozzles were all falling apart as I was using them, and I noticed it's because the assembly, they don't have any thread locker, and that bottom little bit likes to slip out. So I added some thread locker and turned them on, but the only issue now is that I don't know if I'll be able to get these off. I'm gonna have to get really small pliers on there if I never need to take them out, because there are no spanner features to twist that off. So spanner features on those nozzles would be an upgrade as well. Let's see. Where are we at with that? Oh, and also I've made these little masks for the nozzles as well that aren't ideal because they have a slot on the side to get them on, but I think I'll be able to do them without that, just a hole. But I think these are kind of essential. It's because we can't put the the Juki nozzles on here because they're too big. And these nozzles are I think are gonna be great, but yeah, masking out with the chroma key, it seems to be the way to go, masking out the nozzle for OpenPNP going forward. So some solution for that would be nice, and I'll be happy once I'm finished with these to share the design files. I mean, it's just circles, but as far as like what color paint and what material I'm using, this is just some sort of diffuser material, or maybe no, it's a thin stencil material, but and I spray painted it green. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that it would be nice if you were able to, if you have I know you have a lot of lasers, so actually, yeah, so to laser etch some features onto here. So for one, a permanent homing fiducial, and I've got this little circle here I lasered on, that's out of the way of anything else, and it'll always stay there. So I'm using that as a homing fiducial. I wanted to use this screw, but the shadows made it so that if the lighting changes, it might find it differently. So I wanted it to be flat and in plane with the circuit board. So I think a homing fiducial would be a nice thing to add, as well as maybe lasering like X and Y coordinates, or not coordinates, like ruler markings. So I've always you get your steel rule, but to have it built into the machine would be really nice and it'd be easy enough to laser it onto any of these surfaces. What else do we have here? Okay, as far as the trays go, some changes I would consider. So you'll see mine are green, so I've spray painted them with this matte kind of a primer paint to reduce the reflection, because reflection seems to really be an issue, especially with the black PLA that you had printed these with. It was very reflective, and then the black just also, I can't key that out, and I don't know I can key this out either, so I'm still not sure about this color, but the color of the trays seems to be important and ripe for improvement. Let's see, and it'd be cool too if the trays had markings on them. Let's say, like, I started here with some paint, every what, I think this is like every 40 millimeters maybe, but every 4 would be nice. I'm gonna run the laser and have every 4 millimeters marked, so that you can line up the sprocket holes as you're loading new parts. That way you don't have to realign in the computer, and you know exactly where the sprocket holes lining up, for one. And then for two, you could have a left and right mark as well to show how far the machine can actually reach, because I can't pick up any parts past a certain point, and I can't pick them up past a certain point. So it'd be nice to have that marked on the tray, so I don't load too many parts and then you can't reach them. Let's see. The other thing with these trays is that there should be a clue as to what the orientation should be. There is a little ledge here that forces the sprocket holes to be on one side or the other, but it's hard to see right now because it's so small and subtle. So I think that ledge should actually be larger, and that would be a good clue. And the other thing the other benefit you'll get from that is that then, as you'll see here, the ledge only goes halfway up the sprocket holes, and so for vision that creates kind of a half shadow situation, and it has a hard time finding the holes. That ledge should just be like another millimeter or two deeper to make it easier for vision to see the holes. Let's see. And then it'd be nice too if these trays didn't require screws to install in a tool. If we could somehow make it so that they're maybe magnetically attached, and then these are just posts that they register on, that'd be kind of cool. Something along those lines, maybe an edge that they get pushed up against. And then maybe even shorter options that you can mix and match, like different combinations, because I'm finding that I'm going to have to probably print a custom one, because I don't need these guys here, and I need more of whatever, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, just maybe like modules of like 3 or 4 of each type that you can hot swap with like magnets or something would be really cool. I ran into an issue with the tool changer. So the 3D printed insert, the middle piece that you had a lot of slop in the Z. So what was happening was, once the tool's installed, it would have some tilt, it'd be forced in one direction or the other, and you can move it in one direction, you can move it in the other direction. And it was just enough deflection at the top that the head would miss it sometimes. And then also getting it in and out, sometimes the springs would just go flying out. So what I did was, I laser cut this version out of Delrin, and it's got just enough holding force that the part doesn't want to fall out. But then once it's in, it only has, maybe a millimeter or so to the side, but it always stays straight up no matter what, because it's holding it loosely, and then it's just kind of detented past a certain point. And this laser cuts in one pass, versus if you're 3D printing those, I'm sure it's taking quite a while, because it takes up a good chunk of the bed. And this is just one piece, no springs, nothing. So I think this is an upgrade. And I also did a pass where I etched the front surface of it to make it thinner at the tips, so that it can overcome any deviation in the Z for the nozzle. And this is working really well. I haven't had any issues with this since then. Let's see. Spinning is impulse tool, spinning like a dollar top camera. Oh yeah, the top camera. The only issue I'm seeing with that right now is it has auto exposure that I can't disable. So I'm trying to figure out what the correct balance of like ambient lighting and the LED is, because it's exposure flies all over the place. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to use it for top-down vision, like machine vision. But yeah, something to consider. If there's a version of this that doesn't have auto exposure, by default, that'd be great. Let's see. It'd be nice. It'd be a nicety if you're, if you continue to sell these and you want to just uh, do something nice for the people. I know most people have tweezers, but a lot of people don't have a nice set of tweezers. But like a nice $2 set of tweezers like this, or even like a nice like plastic set of tweezers for like 50 cents or $1 to include would be really nice. Because you want them to stay with the machine. You're going to be using them a lot. Maybe some sort of ruler. I don't know. Again, if it's built into the machine, then that wouldn't be necessary. And then transfer tape, because this surface here, there's no way to clamp the board down. I thought maybe you could use some magnet type thing, but then I just settled for just sticking a piece of transfer tape on here, and that by itself keeps the board in place. And then once it gets, loses its stickiness, you just rip it off and replace it. And it doesn't have too strong of a hold that you can't pull the board off. So I think that's a good solution. So transfer tape on here, and you can put a piece on there and leave the cover on it for their first use, and that would be handy. So now here's some optional modifications, some that I've made and some that I haven't. I added a handle to the front. It's not the handle that I wanted, but I would like a handle where my hand can actually go through it. But this is nice because you can stand the machine up. Added some rubber feet to the back here because you can actually stand it up completely vertically and work on the bottom, on the wiring and everything. So grab it by the handle, also grab it by the back. I've been grabbing it by here, but maybe some finger holes back here or something, maybe a handle here because the machine can't go there. I don't know, something where you're actually supposed to grab it by, because I kind of feel bad grabbing it by any of the motion components. So the handle, a USB hub of sorts, because I know, so you've got the 3 USB ports here coming out the side, but then that means you've got a snake of 3 wires going out somewhere. And since I got the mini one for portability, it's just kind of unwieldy to have 3 USB cables shooting out and then a hub and the computer. So what I've done is just, run them into a hub, which you can see right there, and then just fed that cable out. But maybe an integrated hub of some sort would be maybe an upgrade feature, or you could sell a hub as an add-on, maybe for people. I know that adds cost, so your pricing is already so reasonable that I don't expect you to immediately implement any of the non-cost saving changes here, but I feel like a lot of these suggestions wouldn't cost you anything or cost you much to implement, including a cover for the camera. I put a little piece of plexiglass over the top of it, but there should definitely be something, because otherwise parts are falling down into the machine. If you got it screwed up, you can't get them out at that point. Yeah, because it came without this cover. I switched out the stepper motors for silent steppers for the TM2208s, and that was just a direct swap except for the axis direction. So you just have to switch the orientation of 2 of the wires on each of the steppers, and then it changes direction. Or I guess you could do that in firmware too. But other than that, the silent steppers are really nice. I added this power switch onto the side here. You already had a hole here for some reason. Maybe that was why. But so this is just cutting power to the motion controller board. As kind of like a emergency stop that doesn't, that's not me switching the AC back here, and then B as a, it's got an indicator that the power is on, because otherwise, now that I've got the fans disconnected, I don't know if it's actually got power to it or not. So that's nice. And I think that, and one other thing, so this is a total stretch goal, but a guy can wish, and I may build this at some point if I end up getting as much use out of this as I'm hoping. But an auxiliary handheld pick wand. So you've already got the pump and you've already got the electronics necessary to be able to hand, because as parts are flying all over the place, instead of using a tweezers, which is just very kind of finicky to grab small things, a handheld wand is really handy. I've got one for my own manual pick and place, but to have it built in would be really cool. So maybe like a handheld deal with a hose and a wire going back to a double throw switch that gives power to the pump, and then to a separate little auxiliary solenoid for the handheld thing. And then now you've got a way to kind of like, correct some mistakes and pick up parts that are floating around, or manually place some things, and it can just be a platform for manual placing as well. But I mean, that we're talking like what, $10 bill of materials max. I don't know how much these little solenoids cost, but you just need to add one of these, an extra run of wire, and then just you know, some sort of handheld nozzle thing. And I guess it could even accept these tips if you wanted it to. But yeah, other than that, sorry, it's a long-winded and long video, and I appreciate it if you've made it this far. Um, I just wanted to share with you because I know, as someone who makes things myself, some things you overlook because because you're so tunnel visioned into the individual problems that you're working on, and it's hard to get perspective without getting feedback from a third party. So I hope you appreciate that I shot this video, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And again, I totally appreciate all the work and design that you've put into this, and it really is a great product. It could just be a much greater product with just a few changes. I know if I was less mechanically inclined, I would have had a very bad time. And if I didn't have the 1.5 weeks of extra hours to commit, then I would have probably given up on this, because there's a lot of these issues kind of made it unusable. The tool changer wasn't usable. The accuracy of the head was not usable. And then actually not being able to talk to some of the parts because of the definition made me think it was broken. But yeah, all right. Thanks and have a great day.